What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. What is today? I think it's Wednesday, the something. I don't know, 4th maybe? That sounds about right. I think it's Wednesday the 4th. I could be off by a day. But welcome back to the channel. I originally had another video planned for today about the Reformation I've been working on. As you can see, that's not what I'm doing today. It's called Who is Islam's Imam Mahdi, or the 12th Hidden Imam. So I've been planning on making this video for a few weeks now, and I just keep putting it off and getting around to other stuff. And the last few days, I kept saying I'm gonna get around to it, I'm gonna do it, and then I fell asleep last night with my TV on, and I woke up and they were basically a commercial promoting the Imam Mahdi. I was like, what? So I was like, yeah, maybe that's a sign. Maybe I should go ahead and do this video. So that's why we're going to go ahead and cover this one today. It's about an hour-long video, and it basically is about the Imam Mahdi and who he is. So, me personally, I've always felt the Imam Mahdi and the Antichrist will be the same person. That's just always made sense to me. How he would get all the religions to basically unite. So I've always thought it's going to end up being the same person, the Mahdi and the Antichrist. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started.
Amoklauf innerhalb einer Woche.
Sturmtief Daniel hatte am Sonntag die heftigsten Regenfälle.
I skipped through a little bit of this video. It is in English. It's just a few parts here where it's not in English.
Seit 40 Jahren sind mehr als 10.000 Menschen getötet worden, darunter seien 4.000 Kinder.
Beim schwersten Zugunglück in Indien sind fast 300 Menschen ums Leben gekommen.
300 dead from earthquake, then it was showing 300 dead in a train crash in India. So it looks like it's showing catastrophes across like the Islam world.
Erdbeben unaufhaltsam an. Inzwischen wurden mehr als 2000 Tote gemeldet.
Auf der Insel Rhodos ist ein Waldbrand außer Kontrolle geraten.
42.000 Menschen sind durch die schweren Erdbeben ums Leben gekommen. Die
Saudi-Arabien rüstet weiter auf und der Nahe Osten.
Social Media ist voll von seinen.
I don't know how familiar you guys are with like Eastern politics, but and like the Sunni and the Shiite versions of Islam, but they literally hate each other. Most of the Islamic world hates Saudi Arabia. Like they literally want to destroy Saudi Arabia because they don't like the decadence and all the money and how rich they live. So Saudi Arabia isn't well liked in the Middle East by a lot of the other countries there.
Es ist die Rede vom Mahdi.
Der Mahdi ruft Oberhäupter zur friedlichen
Papst
Abdankung
Franziskus gibt nun eine erste Stellungnahme zum Mahdi, schließen sich dem Mahdi an. Religiöse Oberhäupter halten Krisensitzungen ab. Der Mahdi sei der verheißene Messias.
Weltweit sind
nennt sich Mahdi.
Ist vom Mahdi.
Der Mahdi.
Der Mahdi.
Mahdi.
Every day starts the same. We wake up and immediately grab our cell phones. And if we go to the latest news instead of Instagram and WhatsApp, the same thing awaits us every time. War, protests, crimes, natural disasters. But it doesn't affect.
Welcome to the show. That might probably be Stefan. He left. I think that was Stefan. He's pretty much my only viewer I get. I get some here and there, but pretty much it's just Stefan that's usually here.
This anymore. It has somehow lost its shock. A bomb here, an earthquake there. It's almost kind of normal. But even we are no longer safe from such incidents. The planet is changing and wars are reaching our doorstep. Most recently, the pandemic and its measures kept us in a stranglehold for 2 years. At some point you ask yourself, what is happening to this world right now? Were the Mayas perhaps right about the end of the world after all? But surprisingly, it wasn't just the Mayas who reported the end of the world and the end of time. What is this end of time? Is there any truth to it at all?
Today, when we look at the state of the world from a
I probably could have got into a little bit of history of how Islam started if people don't know. So it basically started through Ishmael. Remember him and his mom were kicked out because he was a bastard son. And then what's her name was 102 years old and they didn't think she can get pregnant. So he had a son with basically his handmaiden who was Muslim, and he had Ishmael. And then what's her name ended up getting pregnant at like 100 and something years old. So she made them kick Ishmael and his mom. What's up, Stefan? I was just telling him a little history about how Islam started, basically through Ishmael, how he was kicked out. And then basically that's where they say Islam started. They say Muhammad was a descendant of Ishmael. So that's basically where the split started, was through Ishmael. Yeah, all history is interesting for sure. I've been saying in the first couple minutes, I've been meaning to do this video for like weeks now, and I just keep putting it off. But then I fell asleep last night with my TV on, and I woke up like 3 or 4 in the morning, and it was a commercial basically promoting the coming of the Mahdi. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, that might be a sign I probably should cover the video then. It kind of blew my mind. I saw that on TV. I was like, wow. Couldn't believe it. But they were basically saying the Mahdi's here. He's coming. I was like, wow, that's on TV. A commercial.
social perspective.
So basically, we're going to look at who is the Imam Mahdi, or the 12th hidden Imam. I personally feel that Antichrist and the Mahdi could be the same man. That just makes sense to me.
From a financial perspective, we see that the world is really struggling.
Yeah, I love history.
The journey of man is a journey full of dangers. Perhaps in the past it was inconceivable that the entire world would perish. But today the world is a small village. It has now become realistic that the whole world will perish, be it through diseases or wars or through other catastrophes.
اما تو این چند سال اخیر مخصوصاً از وقتی که کرونا
In recent years, especially since Corona has spread around the world and people have been struggling with it, they have realized that technology can't do everything and can't fix everything. They've realized that this world has become full of problems.
و فهمیدن که این عالم پر از بلا شده.
Yes, we have a lot of good technology, a lot of scientific development, but from a social perspective, we are really struggling today.
Humans have developed all these technologies and made progress. Nobody denies that. But despite all this, man has not found peace. He is slowly realizing that all these things are not the cure and relief for his pain.
And then when you look at the financial aspect, you find that there are nations out there that are very rich, like the United States, the richest nation on earth. But even in these countries, you have...
Is the United States the richest on earth? I mean, I would say they were probably second or third, but I wouldn't be surprised if China passed us, and I would think Saudi Arabia would probably, I don't know. I wonder where they got those statistics, but I would think Saudi Arabia would be the richest country on earth with all the gold and or the oil and everything. But I don't know. I wonder where he got those stats from. Obviously, America's up there for sure. But I would just think China would have overtaken them by now, just because they're growing at such a crazy rate.
Have people who are struggling financially. And then when you look at other worlds and how they are being exploited, many times the riches that we have in the first world, it's at the expense of who? Poor, miserable people working.
I mean, that's true. Look at Africa. It's disgusting what they've done over there in Africa. Like, they've literally just plundered and pillaged all of Africa. It's disgusting. All for diamonds, and So yeah, there's a lot of truth to what he just said for sure.
By forced labor, earning maybe $1 per day.
Yeah, it's all
That's
good,
what's
Stephen.
happening. This is the financial situation of the world.
This unequal distribution means
working.
that on average, every 13 seconds, a child under the age of 5 dies as a result of malnutrition. That's 25 children since the beginning of this film. But the consequences of this unequal distribution can also be felt in wealthy countries, not in the form.
Which is crazy. There's no way in today's society any country should be starving like that. It's just disgusting. They said the queen was worth like something like $16 trillion when she died. She could have ended world hunger on her own. I saw Bill Gates, a clip yesterday, him bragging. The host was like, you could lose 99% of your money and still be one of the richest people in the world. And Bill Gates was like, yeah, I could lose 99% and still be worth 1.3 billion. And he was just laughing. That's just crazy. Like they could literally end world hunger. That just shows how evil they are.
Form of malnutrition, but in the form of depression and burnout. 1 in 4 people suffer from chronic depression.
Stefan said Europe plundered Africa for centuries. Now Europe wants to dictate Africa. Yeah, for sure. Especially Great Britain. Yeah, that's 100% facts. Yeah, Elon Musk could stop world hunger on his own, 100%, guaranteed. If Bill Gates could lose 99% of his wealth and still be a billionaire, oh my goodness. Man. That just goes to show money really is the root of all evil.
Depression at least once in their lives.
They wouldn't let me be a billionaire. They would kill me straight up because I would give it all away and I would go to those countries and they wouldn't let me be a billionaire. I can tell you right now.
More than half of these are young people aged 14. This leads to an average of 90 suicides per hour. 9 people since the beginning of this film.
That's crazy.
Another factor that contributes significantly to global inequality is the interest rate and banking system. A system in which capital flows from the financially weak to the top of the social hierarchy. It is disturbing to realize that only 1% of the world's population controls almost 2/3 of all global wealth. In contrast, the remaining 99% of people have to share the remaining third. This discrepancy is becoming more dramatic every single year.
Look at the wars. Look at the billions of dollars and the trillions of dollars that are wasted on weapons. That's not a problem. Today we have a problem in Ukraine, right? These Ukrainians are being killed by which weapons? Weapons that these strong nations are producing to kill one another. And then we come as heroes. No, this is an unjust war. We're acting like we're heroes, right? You made those weapons.
At first, they follow this party or that politician. Many people.
I mean, there's truth to what he just said in that, too. I mean, that's 100% facts, too. They start the wars and then supply them with the weapons to make more money. It's insane. That's been going on forever. That's been going on since before, basically World War I. No big secret.
Will follow just anyone. But if, after a few years, they see something wrong with that person, or something that goes against their own ideas, then they abandon them. At some point, people get fed up with a particular politician and then organize elections, so that a new politician or party comes to power. Then a new party comes in and they realize that this is not what they expected either. In some countries, it even gets worse than before. But even if it doesn't get worse, nothing changes. Everything has stayed the same.
It's called the good old bait and switch.
Get tired of following this and following that. They lose faith in it and realize that through these elections, through all these parties and politicians, nothing changes and everything stays the same.
The world gathers experience in different ways, but each time it arrives at a mirage. But they don't admit it. Some doctors don't admit their mistakes either. They say, it was an experience. Let's have another experience now. Sometimes they don't even admit that. In the same way, the rulers of this world consistently make mistakes.
So there's a lot of good that's in the world. We don't deny that. We're not trying to be pessimistic over here. But honestly, socially, financially, we are struggling.
How did it come to this?
Yeah, I don't like talking about other religions and stuff like that, but I am not a fan of Islam at all. I just, Muhammad, he was disgusting. He was a pervert. Yeah, I'm not getting my channel banned, but he was a pervert. I don't like that at all.
Why don't
all I'm going to say is poor Aisha. Disgusting.
people in power do anything about this suffering? And if they do, why does nothing change? Almost everyone asks themselves these questions at some point, but they have long since been answered. Since the earliest days of mankind, there have been predictions about these global problems. Prophetic messages about the end of the world can be found in the teachings and traditions of every religion and culture, regardless of whether they are polytheistic or monotheistic belief systems. They all describe an end time in which the forces of evil will prevail. A dark world pervaded by evil and injustice. When Jesus was asked by his disciples about the end of time, he replied,
Here's the thing, a lot of Muslims won't admit that the Quran literally says Jesus is God. Like, it literally says that. In one verse it says only God can judge the people, only Allah can judge the people. And then later in a verse it says in the end times Jesus will come back to judge the people. So if only God could judge the people, that means Jesus is God. But they don't like getting into that conversation right there.
You will hear from wars and war cries. Watch and do not be afraid, for this must happen.
That's true.
But it is not yet the end. For
Stefan said Islam seems violent to me, but probably no more violent than Catholicism during the Dark Ages. Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably really true. I just don't like the, I don't even know if I want to get into that. I know you probably know the story with Muhammad and Aisha. Yeah, it's disgusting to me, and I don't like that aspect of that at all. It's just wicked.
Nation will rise against nation. And
let's just say he married her when she was 6 years old, and then consummated when she was 9. Wicked.
Kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines and earthquakes here and there. But all this is the beginning of pains. Then many will fall and will betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will arise and will deceive many. And because disregard for the law will prevail, love will become cold.
The thing, when you really pay attention to all the leaders shaking hands, you see them doing Masonic grips. They're all Masons.
Many hearts.
All the suffering and problems that are currently widespread in our world have already been predicted by our prophet and our saints. That huge problems would arise in the end times. Economic problems, psychological problems, divorces, illnesses. All this is written in our traditions. That everyone who moves away from God will face such problems.
To be precise, the main problem is the governments. All these governments have brought certain benefits to humanity, but 100 times more than these benefits, they have brought problems.
Yeah,
Look at
that's
the world
probably
today.
true.
It's based on rejecting God. It's based on atheism. Our universities, more than ever, they're based on atheism. God is not in the picture anymore. Do whatever you want. You mentioned the rainbow movement, the rainbow flag.
Yeah, that's 100% facts right there. They've taken God out of schools, college, and yeah, it's just, yeah. Even when I was in college 20-something years ago, it was starting to creep in then. I started seeing some of those real liberal professors, and you could just start seeing it creeping in back then. And now it's just, colleges are stupid nowadays.
Go and do
pretty much a waste of money. There's a handful of professions you're going to be able to actually use that degree in. I got a buddy, he went to UC Berkeley, and he literally took out like almost $500,000 worth of loans. And his profession was he was going to be a politician that writes books. And we kept telling him, like, bro, you're going to be in so much debt and you're not going to be able to get a job. And he went through with it, and literally 10 years later, it was a waste of a paper. He paid $500,000 for nothing. It's crazy. Engineering is a really good profession. Medical's always going to be there, but it's just a handful of professions nowadays.
Do whatever you want. You're free. There is no God in the picture. When you eliminate God from the picture and you try to experiment, you start causing self.
Stefan said regarding the handshakes, Walter Veith points that out. Yeah, they'll grab the first, second, or third knuckle. Certain positions, how they stand, will tell them they're other Masons. But usually it's the grip. The third knuckle is, I believe, the master grip. But yeah, there's different ways and different keywords. Like if you ever hear anyone call someone else a knothead, it means they're a Mason.
Destruction.
But there's all kinds of tells and giveaways and codes for them.
We don't have standards of morality anymore.
Imagine someone who has been locked up in prison since childhood. When someone like that grows up,
Yeah, Stefan, I've been reading about they're supposedly putting prayer and the 10 Commandments back into schools. I've been reading that and hearing that, yeah.
cannot understand the meaning and reality of freedom. What does freedom mean? He says, I can walk from this side of my cell to the other. I can scream. I can say what I want. I eat when I want to, and when I don't, I don't. I eat now or in 2 hours. That's what he means by freedom. But what does the person who lives in freedom say? Poor soul, you're imprisoned. Freedom means proclaiming your voice to the world. That is the reality of freedom. Is this example comprehensible?
Over 1300 years ago, the Holy Prophet Muhammad made highly detailed predictions about the present day.
Yeah, he's not holy.
At that time, the governments of Muslims will be in the hands of tyrants. Fools will be in power. Women will be rulers, and children will speak on tribunes. At that time, men will look like women, and women will look like men. Women will be seen being praised for their adulterous deeds. Men will support them and will be among the best family men. Women will satisfy their lust with women and men with men. Close relatives of forbidden degree will marry each other, and even if they think it is bad, they would not say anything against it out of fear of the people. Singing girls will appear, and their voices will rise, and they will find a lot of audience. People will regard music as a favorite activity. Chess will be played openly, and wine will be sold openly.
Well, yeah, because we know that Lucifer was supposedly one of the best musicians ever made by God, and he was in charge of music, so it makes sense. Music is one of his biggest tools against us. Of course it would be. And music is, man, especially rap nowadays and that drill crap, and it's just destroyed the kids over here in America. These kids are literally killing anything that moves in a lot of these cities out here. It's crazy. It's all because of like the music and stuff.
And no one will forbid it. Minarets will be erected high. Mosques will be decorated with gold like churches and synagogues. Tall buildings will be built. Women move vehicles of transportation. The rain is not seasonal. Everyone advises what they don't do themselves. Human life becomes a commodity for sale, and bloodshed becomes a frequent and very common thing. This world takes precedence over the hereafter. People oppress their parents and are kind to their friends, yet their hearts are far apart. On the outside, they are like wolves, and on the inside, more rotten than carrion.
Many people think it's good if everyone is dating everyone, boys, girls, men and men, women and women. That would be freedom. They are just like this prisoner in jail. They've misunderstood freedom. Why? Because they don't know anything about outside. Because they have distanced themselves from spiritual and human values.
They have not yet felt the need for it, because they only see
When they said people are eating on carrion, I looked it up. That means a dead carcass, like an animal carcass, basically. Which I think is one of the actual laws of Noah. It's one of the Noahide laws. I believe there's something in there about that, about eating something about a dead carcass or something like that.
see what's in front of them.
In the desert, it's the same. You can see a lake from afar, but when you get there, you find nothing.
All right, we got a question from Stefan. Have you ever seen Distraction Dilemma by Christian Birdhall? It follows the transformation of music through the centuries and the effect of music on the human mind. Nuh-uh. I'll add that to the playlist and cover it. I've heard of Christian Birdhall before, but I haven't seen that. Which is not surprising because I don't know if you ever seen the old, it's probably 10 years old now. An old Japanese professor basically showed how water can change in different shapes of crystals and stuff based on the frequency it hears. So that's not surprising at all. Of course, it's going to have some type of effect, probably more on the subconscious, I would imagine. That's the other thing too, is I know different frequencies can have different effects on the human mind. Like drill music, the frequency they use is like a super low, and it's supposedly not good for us. It puts people, like, makes them depressed and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. We'll let me take a picture of that comment so I can add that to the list. Yeah, good recommendation. Oh, he shows the Japanese professor's work. Okay. Actually, that's probably like 20 years old. That's probably older than 10. I remember seeing that a long time ago. I remember it was super fascinating. I was like, wow, just how intricate life is and stuff. It's crazy. That's why I don't understand how we have atheists. Like, how you could see something like that and be like, oh, there's nothing out there. It just blows my mind.
Humanity constantly arrives at mirages. Government, economy, family, prison, the market. Everything has become a mirage. They're constantly coming up with new ideas, but there's always a problem somewhere. This presumed peace that many in the world still have should not please them. This peace will not last much longer. They are exhausted. They are going around in circles, but looking for a way out. The whole of humanity is at a dead end. They are all standing at the mirage while they are all thirsty.
The time to help is now. We can't wait for our brothers and sisters to be broken, and steadfastness.
All right, and also for anybody who doesn't know, they say that the Imam Mahdi, his name will be Muhammad, and he'll have a severe facial tic and he'll stutter. That's why I've made a few videos saying I think Mohammed bin Salman would be a good candidate for the Mahdi, because his name is Muhammad. He literally has a severe facial tic and he stutters. So that's why I've always kept my eye on him as possibly being the Mahdi. or the Antichrist. I mean, I feel like they possibly could be the same person, the Mahdi and the Antichrist. So, I don't know, though. That's just something to think about.
So the majority of us believe in a kind of end of the
Yeah,
world,
me too, Stefan.
in an end time characterized by injustice and suffering. And we have every reason to. We see things happening day after day that were prophesied thousands of years ago. But what happens then? Does the world just end and everything is over? Or is there still something to come? Something that...
This topic actually gets pretty deep because, like I stated in the very beginning of the video, there's a major difference between the Sunni and the Shiite Muslims, and pretty much most of the Muslim world hates Saudi Arabia. They literally want to destroy Saudi Arabia. They don't like the decadence and all the money and stuff and all the gold and all that. So it's pretty intricate, all the stuff over there that plays into it. So maybe I'll get into that one of these days, the history of the Sunni and the Shiites and how they all basically hate Saudi Arabia.
That might give us hope. Surprisingly, religions do not only predict a dark end time, they tell us that at some point in distant future, someone will appear who will put an end to all this suffering. Someone who will replace injustice with justice. Someone who will start a worldwide revolution of peace and put an end to evil forever. The Buddhists call him Maitreya Buddha. The Hindus call him Kalki. The Jewish Messiah is a descendant of the prophet David and...
Okay, wow. So that's the first time I've ever heard them use Maitreya's name associated with the Mahdi. Wow. Dang, that actually just blew my mind. So I've been doing a series on Maitreya. If he's a real person, I think he is probably the best candidate for the Antichrist. The whole esoteric world, Bailey, Blavatsky, all of them have promoted this man for hundreds of years. Wow, that really just blew my mind. That's crazy. As soon as you said injustice and justice, I thought, like, wow, that sounds just like Maitreya's, how he speaks. And then they actually said it. Wow. That's crazy.
Christians await the appearance of Jesus. Muslims, on the other hand, call him Mahdi.
Because Maitreya claims to be all of those. He says he's the Buddha, the Imam Mahdi, Christ, which is obviously a lie. He's not.
The Messiah of the end times is someone about whom all religions and cultures have written in the holiest books, that he will come one day, at a time when the world has descended into chaos and injustice has become the norm, in which the economy has collapsed and the human psyche has been destroyed. At such a time, a heavenly figure will appear and act as a savior to humanity.
Before the return, humanity reaches a dead end, and they are looking for a supernatural power to get them out of it.
The whole of humanity is looking for a peacemaker, someone who fills the entire world with peace and tranquility, someone who embodies all goodness in one person. Because it is said that in the end times, people will become like a flock of sheep looking for the shepherd.
Now, one could ask, why do I need a savior when I've got a strong government to protect me? I've got a strong army. I've got politicians whom I can elect and they'll give me my freedoms. Why do I need a savior when that is the case? We need a savior because when you look at every level of society, we see that human beings are suffering.
We already have a savior. His name is Jesus Christ of Nazareth. He is God.
نمی شود الا
And this world will not be healed except by the hand of the Mahdi who will come. For when he comes, the entire world will come to rest through him.
کل عالم به دست این آقا آرامش پیدا می‌کنه.
The name Mahdi is widely known in the Muslim community, and many await his arrival. However, one should rather speak of a return instead of an arrival. The belief is that he has already been born and lives in secrecy until the time of his return is determined. Since the days of Adam, a total of 124,000 prophets have been sent by God to guide mankind. Among the most outstanding names are personalities such as Abraham, Noah, Moses, and Jesus. But the last and most important prophet is the Holy Prophet Muhammad. With him, this succession of prophets was sealed. Each of these prophets, however, was appointed one or more vicegerents, also known as imams by God. These imams had the important responsibility of preserving and spreading the message of that particular prophet during his absence. After the death of the Prophet Muhammad, his son-in-law and cousin Ali was appointed by God as imam. Over the course of 12 generations, the role of the imam continued until it finally reached its peak with Imam Mahdi. He is therefore the last imam of the last prophet.
Someone who oppressed.
All right, sorry guys, I was distracted. I was actually returning an email for my Maitreya series. I did an interview a few weeks ago with this follower of Maitreya. He's followed him for like 30 years, and he says he's actually like met him and stuff. But he just confirmed I'm gonna do part 2 this Sunday at 11 a.m., which is crazy. That just blows my mind. I get that email right after the very first time I've ever heard them say Maitreya's name linked to the Mahdi. That just blows my mind. Wow. Crazy.
Is needy. Someone who is hasty is afraid of losing.
Literally in 30 years, I've never heard them mention Maitreya's name with the Mahdi. That blows my mind.
Someone who takes revenge has a deficit. God and his representatives are neither needy, nor are they in a hurry, nor do they have a deficit in themselves. So even if billions upon billions of prophets gather, they would not say two different things. They all say the same thing.
یک حرف میزنن.
یک شخصی باید باشه که نماینده.
So there must be someone who acts as a representative of the prophet in all eras, with the growth of culture, technology, global challenges, and human intellect as a guide. Humanity needs a mediator and representative of God on earth for all eternity.
بین خودش و خالق داره الالابد.
Imam of the time means the leader of the present age, the leader of the current era, the Imam of our time in which we all live. His name, however, is Mahdi. It means the one who guides.
We believe that this person is a flawless role model, a perfect human being, someone who can be trusted as God's representative and spokesman.
But see, the Mahdi is basically described in the same characteristics as basically the Antichrist is described in the Bible. That's why I've always thought maybe they're going to end up being the same person. It would only make sense. Because you got the three main religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And I think all three are going to play a major, major role in the end times. They would have to. So that's why I've always thought the Mahdi and the Antichrist are the same. Probably be the same guy. Because I've talked to a few Jews over the years, and all of them have told me straight up their Messiah doesn't have to be Jewish. They're literally, we're going to accept the first person that basically they're looking for more of like a military leader that's going to defend Israel and fight all their wars for them. So that the Antichrist doesn't have to be Muslim, according to quite a few Jews I've spoken to that live in Israel. It kind of blew my mind. I was like, wow. They believe there's going to be two Messiahs, Messiah ben Joseph and Messiah ben David, which is eerily similar to the Revelations again, the false prophet and the Antichrist. So I think it all ties in together. Yeah, I could agree with that, Stefan.
Imam al-Mahdi, may Allah hasten his reappearance, was born in the year 255 in the Hijri calendar. That's about...
I got to be really careful, especially with that group. Yeah, that's like one of the fastest ways to get your channel nuked.
Almost 12 centuries ago, in the city of Samarra, which is northwest of Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. Now, the day that Al-Imam al-Askari passed away and his son al-Mahdi continued the imamah, that's when the occultation started.
Why did Imam Mahdi go into occultation? Because people rejected him.
Imam al-Mahdi would have been killed just like all the other imams. Allah gave 11 shining stars to humanity to guide them, to sacrifice. Every one of them was killed, either by the sword or poisoning. If Allah would have kept the last one, either the evil governments of the time or the corrupt people of the time, they would have killed him. So you have to say...
So basically that's why they also call him the hidden imam. Occultation basically means going into hiding. But that's kind of crazy. It has basically the word occult in it. But that's what the occultation means, if anybody didn't know. Basically going into hiding. And so that's why the hidden imam, or the 12th imam.
This last one.
So that God protects his last representative and the world does not lose him too. He has hidden him from the eyes of mankind. But he is alive and among us. Our eyes do not recognize him. He, on the other hand, sees us and knows us all.
Imam Mahdi is from us and among us. In other words, he's created like us.
Also, another true fact, Muhammad told all of his followers to drink camel urine. For what reason, who knows, but that's 100% true fact. He told his followers to drink camel urine.
Exists and lives among us humans. His occultation is basically our ignorance of him and his existence.
Although the Mahdi remains hidden, there are numerous...
Yeah, he said something about milking the camels and then drink their urine. I remember I got banned one time because I put a picture up of, it was this guy somewhere over in the Middle East. He was running from a camel, and the camel was trying to bite his butt. And I put in the caption when Muhammad found out he was milking a male camel. They were so mad.
Numerous reports of people who have had encounters with him.
It is important to mention that Imam Mahdi is not invisible. Invisible would mean he is standing here, but we don't see him. He is hidden. That is, he exists and comes and goes. Every Thursday evening, he comes to the shrine of Imam Hussein, and everyone sees him. But nobody knows that he's the Imam of our time.
It is possible to see the Mahdi during his occultation. Many have already had the honor of seeing him. Some have seen him.
So, did I hear that right? They just said the Mahdi's there and people go over and look at him? I think that's what he said.
Although the Mahdi remains hidden, there are numerous reports of people who have had encounters with him.
It is important to mention that Imam Mahdi is not invisible. Invisible would mean he is standing here, but we don't see him. He is hidden. That is, he exists and comes and goes. Every Thursday evening, he comes to the shrine of Imam Hussein, and everyone...
Yeah, I knew I wasn't hearing things. So they're saying every Thursday he shows up there. That's crazy.
Sees him, but nobody knows that he's the Imam of our time.
It is possible to see the Mahdi during his occultation. Many have already had the honor of seeing him. Some have seen him, but only...
So, okay, so they're saying they don't recognize him, which is eerily, once again, similar to how they say Maitreya. They say he can look however he wants, and people don't recognize him, basically, and sometimes until after. Also, I'm not sure if you guys ever saw the video from, I believe it was Iraq during the war. They were all on a bridge, and there was, I don't know if it was fake or not, but they're saying it was the Mahdi and Maitreya, but he looked like he was on a horse, and it was just like solid white, like a light, like glowing. I don't know if it was real or not, but it made me think of that. Maybe I'll see if I can find that video after this.
Only recognized him afterwards. Some have seen him and recognized him, but did not have permission to talk to him.
See, and that's literally how all of Maitreya's followers describe how he is. That's so interesting.
However, most of our scholars, their understanding is we cannot determine any location for the Imam. Honestly, we don't know where he is. He could be anywhere.
I know a lot of people thought he was at the Kaaba in Mecca. You know, the thing they walk around in a circle with the black stone. I know a lot of people thought he was inside there, but I've seen inside there. It's actually not too big in there. It's just like some carpets and like all in gold and stuff, and like a bunch of incense things.
If he has a permanent place that he usually stays at, that's not something that's disclosed to us. That's not something that we would have access to know.
And I believe they said for like 1,000 years he lived in a cave on some island. Or is that the Dajjal? That might be the Dajjal, actually. I think that's the Dajjal. Yeah, I think I'm wrong on that.
This is the power.
The Dajjal is basically their version of the Antichrist, who they say the Mahdi will go over to Israel and fight. He's supposed to have one eye. I think his left eye's out or his right eye's out. He's supposed to only have one eye, though. And they call him the Dajjal.
Of God. God is able to grant his representative a long life, just as he gave a long life to Prophet Noah.
Yeah.
And yet Imam Mahdi appears in the form of a young man.
Stefan said, I saw videos about American troops falling prey to red-headed giant cannibals in Afghanistan. Don't know what to believe sometimes. Yeah, they called them the Giants of Kandahar. And actually, my buddy was in the military around the time, and he said he had friends that knew people in that troop, and he told me it was real. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the Bible talks about giants, and then after the fallen angels mated with women and created giants and stuff, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if they were still around. I think they'll probably be back at some point. If they're not around, they might bring back their DNA somehow or something, because the Bible says the end days will be just like the days of Noah, and during Noah's days there was definitely giants running around. So I mean, it very well could be true. Well, I know they found giant bones all across the world. It's just the Smithsonian buys them all up and hides them. Because obviously if people knew giants were real, they would be like, oh, maybe the Bible is real. So they hide all the bones they find.
The eyewitnesses who recognized him always describe him as a young man between 35 and 40 years old.
و با امام زمان سلام الله علیه افرادی هستند مثل
Imam Mahdi has a number of people around him, just like the 12 disciples of Jesus. These disciples were people.
Yeah, which they say Maitreya is coming with 12 ascended masters. So, wow. There's literally so much, like, similarity. He's coming with 12 ascended masters. One's called Saint Germain. One's called, I forgot. They got weird names like Ra Cool or something like that. One is Sanat Kumara. They got some weird names though. But that's interesting. Wow.
Who had a close and private relationship with Jesus. Imam Mahdi also has such people, but no one knows them. Their identity is concealed. And one thing is important to mention, namely that anyone can be one of Imam Mahdi's disciples. It is not the case that his disciples all have long beards and wear religious robes. Not at all. Many can build a friendship and relationship with Imam Mahdi. How?
That's the other thing. The only known picture of Maitreya, he's got a long beard and he's in an all-white robe with like a blue rope around like the head up there. Dang. That's interesting.
By thinking about him, by feeling him.
Imam Sadiq, the sixth Imam, was once asked about the Mahdi. How can humanity benefit from a representative of God who is hidden? He replied, just as it benefits from the sun when it is hidden behind the clouds.
Let's assume that the sun, which is currently shining, disappears behind clouds. You cannot say there's no sun. It does exist, but it is veiled behind the clouds of obscurity. And these clouds are us humans ourselves.
Because the Imam lives on the same earth that we live on. He knows us very well. He knows us by name. He sees us and hears our voices and is aware of all situations of our lives. He is among us, but we don't see him. He knows each and every one of us, our mothers, our fathers. He is very, very close to us. It is we who are far from him.
If we frequently remember Imam Mahdi, even if we sometimes forget him, he will always remember us and will stand by us in all matters of our lives.
In Islam, the meaning of this life is seen as a divine test for man, who is endowed with reason and free will. Likewise, the whole of humanity as a collective will be subjected to the same test, the test of occultation and the problems of the end times.
I've seen over the years too, there's a group of people out there who think the Islamic writing is the mark of the beast because they wear like a headband on their foreheads or on their hand there, the tattoo on their hand. So I've seen a lot of people think that that's the mark of the beast too, because they say it's I think it's called Bismillah, but they say it spells out to basically 666. So I've seen all kinds of takes over the years.
Allah wants humanity to learn from their experiences. That's because humans are arrogant. They always think they can figure things out. We can do it. Our governments can do it. Let's try communism. We saw what happened. Let's try socialism. Let's try capitalism. Let's try monarchy. Let's try this. Let's try that. We've tried every type of rule possible, and we've failed every single time.
God has left humanity free to gather its own experiences. So far, it has been over 1,300 years, almost 1,400 years since the Prophet.
Allah wants us to go through that experience so that when the Imam reappears, no one will say, oh God, if you had given me the chance, I would have ruled. So no one can say that.
It's just like the people of Moses who went through a lot to find the promised land. They got up in the morning and one of them said, I know the way to Palestine, this way. They set off and searched and searched and searched, and in the evening they realized that they had arrived back at the post they had knocked into the ground in the morning.
کوبیده بودن رو زمین که اینجا.
The next day, again someone said, I know the way. And again they marched off and searched to find their way to Palestine. But in the evening, they again realized that they were back at the starting point. A week passed. No problem. That was an experience. The second week, third week, the first month, second month, third, fourth. A year passed, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 40 years. After 40 years,
and anyone who doesn't know, the name Palestine comes from the Philistines. That's where the name Palestine comes from.
they asked, Moses, don't you perhaps know the way to the promised land? He said, yes. What? Then why didn't you say anything in those 40 years? Nobody asked me. Every one of you said you knew the way before I could even open my mouth. We as humanity have been going round in circles for almost 1,200 years. Mankind has not yet tasted the cool water. For how long? 1 day? A year? 10 years? 100 years? It's over 1,100 years. It will soon be 1,200. A humanity that has been locked up in prison of occupation for 1,200 years cannot understand the meaning of freedom.
When do you come to appreciate something? When you lose it. When do you appreciate?
Yeah, so guys, basically 600, it's Islam is 600 years after the Bible came. That's basically the time frame between that and when Islam popped up. Like I was saying earlier, it's through Ishmael. Ishmael and his mom were kicked out into the desert because he was basically a bastard son. And then I went blank. Oh my goodness, what's his name? Wife basically ended up having a kid at 100-something years old, and they kicked him out. And then that's basically hundreds of years later. They say that Muhammad was in Ishmael's bloodline, so that's how Islam started, basically, right there. It was 600 years later.
Health. When you sleep one night ill. Honestly, people did not appreciate the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. Allah kept this last one for people to appreciate him.
Hey, video creators. Stuck with the static logo? Time to elevate your brand with the touch of motion. Just Google Video Bolt and watch your logo come to life. Dive into a universe packed with thousands of logo animation templates.
Sorry, I was watching that, checking it out, see if it was something worth doing.
The last imam of the last prophet, 1,200 years old and in secret. The knowledge and wisdom of thousands of prophets combined in one man. And yet we don't want him, even though the world needs him more than ever before. We think we can still make it ourselves. Year after year, the world is heading towards the abyss, but we don't want to admit it to ourselves. And year after year, his return is delayed even further.
Yeah, so Stefan had a question. An imam is just an Islamic religious leader. Pretty much, yeah. They're like the leader for like that whole area they're in, basically. And then basically over the years, there's been, I guess, 11, and this other Mahdi will be the 12th one. But basically, yeah, they're religious leaders for like the area they're in, basically. So kind of basically like cardinals and bishops and stuff like that, basically, yeah. Like in prison in America, there's in every prison there's an imam that runs all the Muslims in that prison. So yeah, they're basically like a leader for the area they're in.
But all world religions tell of the return of the Mahdi, even if they call him something else. In a world full of oppression and suffering, he will come and fill it with peace and justice. But one big question still remains. Why isn't he coming? The world is already suffering so much. What else has to happen?
I know one of the signs is they'll find supposedly like a gold mountain somewhere over in the Middle East. It's supposed to be like a mountain that's literally made out of gold. So I know that's one of the signs.
Many say all the signs have already arrived. Then why doesn't the Mahdi appear? Even if all the signs have arrived, but the conditions have not yet been met, the return,
which I had seen an article like 6 months ago claiming they had found a mountain of gold over there and saying the Mahdi has to be here,
will not yet take place. All these signs of the end times are basically signs that humanity is sick. They are all symptoms of the disease, but they are not the conditions for healing. And the healing is the return.
People have not yet begun to believe in the truth and have not yet reached the point where they lose hope.
And the truth is, Jesus Christ is God.
Someone who loses hope or is seriously ill becomes restless. Someone who is restless feels a burden and distress. He asks everyone how he can get well again.
Reason, intellect, and maturity have not yet been reached for humanity to recognize him, but the world is gradually preparing for the return of the Mahdi.
The most important condition for the return of the Mahdi is that people want it, that they want him, that this sick society admits a sickness, and that they realize how much we need.
Yeah, so okay, I was reading a little bit. The imam is basically a religious leader for whatever area he's in, and then there's only one Imam Mahdi, who is basically who we would probably call the Antichrist.
Someone to take us by the hand and lead us into this beautiful world that we all love.
That's if he's a real person. So, yeah. That's all I'm the same way. I was 50-50 if Maitreya was real, but lately I'm starting to lean more towards he's a real man. I've just been seeing a lot more stuff lately, and I've been seeing a lot more people talking about him lately and promoting him, so I'm starting to think he's a real man.
Long for so much. Someone has a mental health problem but doesn't seek treatment. Why not? Why doesn't he go to the doctor? Because he doesn't feel the need to. I'm fine, I have nothing. Why should I go to the doctor? Someone like that won't get better. The first step to healing is the realization that you have a problem. Only then can the doctor help. For people of the end times will soon realize that they have a huge problem.
Day and night mankind should search for him, just like a thirsty person looks for water. We must be thirsty for him so that he returns.
One day, Imam Mahdi met with Sheikh Mufid, one of the greatest scholars in Islamic history, in the holy shrine of Imam Hussein behind me. The Imam said to him, I open your ears and give you permission to listen to all the prayers and wishes of these people. Look what they say. The Sheikh heard one of them say, Dear God, I have a sick child. Please make him well again in honor of Imam Hussein. Another one said, Dear God, I have a son who wants to get married but has no money. Dear God, my roof is broken and it's raining in. Dear God, my wheelbarrow has a flat tire and I cannot work. Everyone wanted something different. Imam Mahdi said, Sheikh Mufid, do you see? All these people have come here with my signature, but no one is thinking about me. Everyone is only thinking about their own worries. The most important condition of the return is the realization that even if all my problems are solved, I will still not find peace.
People at their core are good. Who doesn't want justice? We all crave for justice. We all want to see a peaceful world, don't we? But why do we have so many problems then? One of it is a deficiency in our intellect. We look at the short term and forget the long term. I want to secure my short-term interests, but I end up causing long-term destruction. See, we don't have that foresight.
The Mahdi is just waiting for people to seek him. But unfortunately, hardly anyone does. Only those who love him do. These are people who have lost hope in all things and have reached a dead end. And only in this dead end have they finally reached the imam. That is the reality. The feeling we have for the Mahdi is that of an infant longing for its mother's milk. We must be thirsty, otherwise there's no point.
We are all dependent on him. We all need him. So why is it being delayed? Because people still believe the mirage is water. Because they still think they can do it. Because they are still relying on themselves.
Since mankind does not yet feel the urgent need for the return, Imam Mahdi's arrival is delayed century after century. As a result, more and more people are losing hope as the problems of the end time become increasingly desperate and the faith in salvation gradually fades. Only a few manage to remain steadfast in the face of these problems and still await him. They recognize the signs of his return and prepare themselves for it. But what are these signs? Both Jesus and Prophet Muhammad spoke about cosmic events that will occur before their return. Days-long solar and lunar eclipses that cannot be explained by astronomers. The appearance of an extraordinary comet in the sky that shines brighter than the full moon, and a chain of stars that moves across the sky. The prophecies also refer to the technological advances of our time. It is reported that towards the end of time, two brothers, one in the east and the other in the west, will be able to see and communicate with each other.
Imam Ali, the first Imam of Muslims, sat in the mosque of Kufa and looked up at the sky. He said, "I see in the sky birds made of metal." The people laughed at him. "What do you mean?" They smiled at this man who told them about the future. But the years passed and passed until today. What are the birds made of metal? The airplanes in the sky.
One of the great prophecies of the end times warns of the emergence of false prophets and deceivers. They will secure the support of the masses through deceptive promises and turn them away from their faith. In their devotion, people will blindly follow these impostors without recognizing the deception. The best known of these false prophets is the Antichrist, also known as Dajjal, who will appear before the return. Through his manipulation, truth and falsehood will be exchanged. He will promote immorality and corruption.
Yeah, that's what I thought. His name is Dajjal.
And discredit faith and religion. People will worship him as a false god and even betray their own parents if they...
But see, it literally sounds familiar. It's literally, they sounds just like scripture, guys.
Don't follow his faith.
The most distinct feature of Dajjal is that in the name of religion, people are scared away from religion. In every religion. In the name of Christianity, many have been driven away from Jesus. In the name of Islam, many have been scared away from Islam. That is the meaning of Dajjal.
Many scholars assume that the Dajjal is not necessarily an individual, but rather a movement or agenda. A closer look reveals certain...
Okay. That's the first time I've ever heard that aspect. Okay, that's interesting though. The one eye. Yeah, the one eye would actually make sense if it was a system. Wow, that's pretty interesting. I've never heard them say that. I've never heard that thought before. I've always heard them say it was a man. But, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense with the one eye symbolism.
Power structures that unfortunately confirm this assumption.
The majority of humanity will lose their lives due to the problems of end times. And God speaks with complete majesty. We have not wronged them. They did this to themselves. We paved the way to freedom and paradise for them. But they themselves did not take this path. Can we still turn back? Anytime we want to.
چون آدم از بدی خسته میشه.
One becomes exhausted by wickedness. That which does not exhaust is goodness, mercy, generosity, bravery, helpfulness, the faith in God. That does not exhaust you, but lies, oppression, torture, murder, and destruction. All of that is exhausting and tiring.
Imam al-Mahdi is the savior for humanity. Just like Prophet Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, peace be upon him, he is the savior of humanity.
What the Christians believe in and what they have told us about the Messiah is very, very, very similar to our descriptions of the Mahdi.
Jesus, the Prophet Muhammad, the holy imams, the Mahdi are all individuals, but are one truth, one and the same light. And this
in the Quran, it says only Allah can judge the people. But then later on, it says that in the end times, Jesus will come to judge the people. So that means Jesus is God. Right out of the Quran.
Light shines on one and the same path.
Remember, Imam al-Mahdi is the inheritor of 124,000 prophets and 11 imams. Just think about this point. When you look at his face, when you look at his demeanor, even you look at the way he walks, the way he talks, you're seeing 124,000 prophets in one man. You're seeing 11 imams in one man. Can you imagine how profound?
Yeah, what comes to my mind is we are legion.
That is? Just having a leader like that.
It won't take much longer. All these natural disasters and problems in the world all point to the fact that someone is coming, after which people will achieve what they have always yearned for.
But there is one last great sign before Imam Mahdi's return that will be audible to all creatures. Jesus spoke of bright trumpets. Prophet Muhammad spoke of a world-spanning sound of a horn.
Yeah, right there. That's what I was talking about earlier. They call it the Cabal, I think. Where they walk around it in a circle in Mecca.
Please, let me join your guild. I want to be a part of a team.
In history, there have been many rulers who promised the people peace, prosperity, and happiness. The people trusted them and therefore gave them even more power, but this only made them poorer and the rulers richer. Today, all we see are the ruins of these rulers, remnants of oppression and greed, and none of them delivered what they've promised. Today, the world is ruled just as much by powerful people who promise us a glorious future. But here too, no one will succeed. The global problems and schemes of evil are too interconnected to be eliminated.
Sie noch beseitigen zu können.
And the Mahdi? How will he implement this global plan? At the moment, it is only Muslims who believe in him. Billions of other people don't even know his name yet. Will they simply welcome him with open arms? Will they maybe fight him? How will Imam Mahdi save this messed up world?
در روایات دارد که امام زمان در شهر مکه
Traditions say that Imam Mahdi will appear on the holy city of Mecca, and mankind will learn about him for the first time from Mecca. And he will call out, I am the remnant of...
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. A lot of people think he was inside this, and that's basically he's going to walk out of there. And that's how they'll find out who he is when he walks out of there.
God. From there, his voice will reach all of humanity.
امام زمان علیه السلام از خبر ظهورشون آشنایی پیدا میکنن.
When Imam Mahdi, who is currently in the occultation of our ignorance, returns, many will say, we have seen him so many times.
That's just crazy to me. They use the word occultation, which means going into hiding, but it has the word occult in it.
But why didn't they recognize him? Because they didn't know who the Mahdi even is and that he exists.
The traditions say that when Imam Mahdi appears, his voice will reach the entire world. This is a divine miracle.
Yeah, it's literally the same thing Maitreya says. It'll be called the Day of Declaration. He'll speak to the whole world at one time. Yeah, there's so many similarities. Wow.
Every person will be able to hear the voice of the Mahdi in their own language. However, the traditions could also refer to modern mass media. In this day and age, important news spread across the globe within seconds. Every person will then learn of the return.
Yeah, but not every person in the world has cell phones. Like people in the Amazon and people in like really, really remote places, they don't have cell phones and TVs. And I'm wondering if it'll be something where they use like HARP in Alaska, because they can literally make the sky a hologram TV. So I think it could be something like that, where he's projected up in the sky and everybody could see him at the same time. But that could be way off. I just always thought that with HARP. I've heard different things about HARP. They can do some pretty crazy stuff with those antennas.
However, there are 313 loyal companions of the Mahdi who were already in contact with him during his occultation. These anonymous people enjoy the Imam's total trust. They will become his future ambassadors and governors and will already be present in Mecca on the day of his return.
The first inner circle of supporters that will gather to support the Imam in Mecca will be the 313. 50 of them are women, according to some of our narrations. That's the first circle. These are the best of the best, the 313. Then the following day, after the Imam announces his mission from Masjid al-Haram in Mecca, 10,000 believers join him. That's the second circle.
Even in the Bible, there are passages that refer to this event. In the Gospels of Mark and Luke, Jesus speaks at various points about the so-called Son of Man, whose return marks the beginning of a time of healing. It is said that he will gather a chosen group of people around him. The Gospel of Matthew.
I don't know what you're asking there, Stefan. You said, I wonder how this Maitreya and then X. I don't know what you're asking.
even describes the coming Son of Man as a judge, whose judgment will extend to all nations of the world.
So initially, the Muslim world gets involved. But we can understand from our narrations that initially, non-Muslims don't get involved. They're looking at the Middle East, okay, this is a Muslim problem, let them deal with it. It's a fight between them.
وقتی که امام زمان علیه السلام تشریف میآورن همه خوشحال نمیشن.
When Imam Mahdi appears, not everyone will be happy. Not everyone will celebrate. Many will oppose the Mahdi. Even people who have deceived many in the name of Islam and religion.
Yeah, you see MBS in the front right there.
Religion will tell him, "Oh Mahdi, go back. We've lived our lives. We've deceived the people." But that's over now. Imam Mahdi will tell them, "I have come to fill the entire world with peace and justice. I have come to show everyone what kind of people you are and what kind of plans you had. But now I will take all that away from you."
و قرار بود چه زندگی داشته باشید اما از شما گرفتن.
So the Imam alayhi salam, Allah gives him victory. And
Stephen said, I wonder how this Maitreya character fits in with Medigurgi, where the Virgin Mary supposedly appeared to the sky and 3 kids. You're talking about Fatima in Portugal? I know. So there was this man named Benjamin Krim. He was basically, they called him Maitreya's John the Baptist. He went all around the world for 40 years promoting him. And he basically tied all kinds of events like that to Maitreya. Like I don't know if you remember the Norway spiral in 2009. There was like a big blue giant spiral in the sky they caught over there. They said that was Maitreya. They link him to some star, kind of like the Star of Bethlehem, basically. Yeah, Fatima. And then they also link him to UFOs. So, yeah, I'm not sure if he ties into Fatima. I mean, there's a possibility for sure. Yeah, Fatima is a pretty crazy story in itself. I know Sister Lucia, who they basically forced her into hiding the rest of her life and made her take a vow of silence to where she didn't talk the rest of her life. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, Fatima is a pretty crazy story. Yeah, I mean, he could tie into that for sure. I've never heard anything like tying him into it myself, but he could. They tie him into UFOs and all kinds of other like apparitions in the sky. Oh yeah, also they tied him into a Mary statue that was bleeding, and I believe a cow statue in India that was like producing milk from its eyes or something like that. Yeah, Fatima, they also saw a spinning wheel. Yeah. The whole town definitely saw something, and there was I think like 100,000 people out there or something. So they saw something up there. What it was, who knows? But they've had spinning wheels and pictures going back centuries related to like Bible pics and stuff. And they also talk about basically types of angels that are like mechanical or something, basically like spinning wheels, like what you're saying, basically. So yeah, it's crazy.
And then he goes to Kufa. He establishes his government in Kufa.
The small town of Kufa is located just a few kilometers away from Imam Ali's shrine, the first of the 12 vicegerents of the Prophet. The Mosque of Kufa played an extremely important role in Islamic history. Imam Ali continued the righteous rule of the Holy Prophet Muhammad from here. And it was in this very place that he was murdered in cold blood one morning during prayer.
I'm pretty sure Kufa is in Iraq.
For Muslims, however, it is not only a historically meaningful, but also a holy place. Thousands of prophets are said to have stayed and prayed here.
It's right outside
Adam's
Baghdad.
repentance was accepted by God here, and Abraham is also said to have lived here.
It's a couple miles outside Baghdad, it looks like, in Iraq. So basically Mesopotamia.
For this reason, the Kufa Mosque will be used by Imam Mahdi as a center for his worldwide peace revolution.
After liberating Iraq, the Imam ﷺ marches west to Palestine. Now, when the Imam arrives in Palestine, we can conclude.
See, what I thought about when he's saying peace and all that, it made me think about how Mohammed bin Salman is basically, was the head of the Abrahamic Accords, which is basically going to be a peace treaty between Israel and Palestine. So that's pretty interesting. They did say that Mahdi's name would be Muhammad. I'm not saying it is Mohammed bin Salman, but that's, I mean, it could be coincidental. Who knows? But his name is Muhammad. He stutters and he has a severe facial tic. So that's actually pretty interesting. He would probably be a good candidate for the Mahdi, actually, being named Muhammad and then stuttering and all that. So that's pretty crazy.
From our hadiths, that here the Christian.
When I saw he was the head of the Abrahamic Accords, that really piqued my interest. Everyone thought Trump was leading it. It wasn't. It was MBS in Saudi Arabia. He was like the real one leading it behind the scenes. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, wow.
The world is about to get involved. The Christians are about to join this event. But it seems there's confusion amongst the Christians as to who exactly is the Mahdi. Is he the savior or is he the Antichrist? Because there are some Christians.
And what's kind of crazy is MBS kind of looks similar to the only known picture of Maitreya. Real similar.
Even today, they're trying to advocate that the Mahdi is the Antichrist. Unfortunately, you have these misconceptions. So it seems the Christians initially have this confusion. How does Allah remove that confusion?
Yeah, basically.
در دین مسیحیت میگن حضرت
Stephen said a stuttering guy with Tourette's. Yeah, basically. I don't know if you've ever seen Mohammed bin Salman like interviews. I think I have one of my shorts, or it might just be under my video section. It's only like a 5-minute video. Check it out. It's he was doing an interview with I want to say like Brett Baer or someone, but he was literally facial tics and stutters the whole video, like severe ones.
In Christianity, it is said that Jesus will return one day and fill the world with justice.
It's on a Friday in Jerusalem. At the time of noon, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives permission to Prophet Isa alayhi salam to descend to the earth.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Esau is Jesus' name over there, but they say the Mahdi will bring Jesus back with him. So there's two of them, the Mahdi and the fake Jesus. So false prophet, Antichrist.
He approaches the Imam. Now the Christians, it seems from our narrations, are watching. What's going to happen? Jesus is here now. Is he going to join the Mahdi or fight the Mahdi? Which is it?
Fighting is the product of ignorance, the product of arrogance. The representatives of God do not have these bad qualities.
And just imagine this beautiful scene that our hadiths have so beautifully portrayed. Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam, he walks up to Imam al-Mahdi. It's the time of Salah. So Imam al-Mahdi, out of his humbleness, he tells him, Ya Ruh Allah, please lead us in prayer. Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam, he puts his arm, his hand on the shoulder.
Yeah, guys, if that really happens, and you know 100% that's the Antichrist and Satan, we already know how Jesus is coming back, and it's not like that, guys. That's a lie.
Shoulder of Imam al-Mahdi. And he tells him, Ya ibn Rasul, O grandson of the messenger of God, you have a greater right to. So Imam al-Mahdi leads the prayer. Prophet Isa prays behind him. When the Christian world sees that Jesus is praying behind Imam al-Mahdi, most of them, they join the Imam alayhi salam, and that's how he establishes global peace.
مسیحیان وقتی پیامبرشون هم میبینن که پیامبرشون
When the Christians see that Jesus, their prophet, is at the side of the Mahdi, they will be the first of all the world religions to join him.
Stefan said I stutter in Afrikaans, but not when I speak English. Oh, wow. I wonder why that is.
مختلف به آقا ایمان میارن و کمک‌ها.
Do you know why that is? That it's only when you're in Afrikaans?
آقا میشن همین مسیحی‌ها هستن.
خب در روایت می‌خونیم که وقتی حضرت صاحب زمان ظهور می‌کنن
The traditions say that a large number of people with blue eyes will join the imam at their return. Who are the people with blue eyes? They are the Western countries. But how can that be? They are all lying unclothed at the sandy beaches. They all drink alcohol. They all have dogs at home, don't they? And so much more.
ولی از یه چیزی گذشتن اونها.
But there's one thing they don't have. They have no blind fanaticism and
Wait, what? In Islam, are you not supposed to have a dog in your house or something? That's crazy.
no evil heart. They are ready to accept any voice in which they sense even the slightest trace of honesty.
رعشه‌ای از صداقت باشه.
همه پشت سر او در
Everyone will pray behind him in Jerusalem. The narrow-minded Christians and the narrow-minded Jews will all arrive at this mirage. They will all believe.
No, not me, buddy. That'll never happen. I'll tell you right now.
In him and gather behind him. When they see Solomon's ring on his finger, Moses' staff in his hand, and Jesus praying behind him, then the exhausted mankind will believe in him.
بشر خسته به او ایمان میاره.
And Solomon's ring is supposedly magic too. It does all kinds of crazy stuff, they say.
The return of Jesus represents a huge turning point in events. This unites the forces of Muslims and Christians and forms a strong arm for the Mahdi. Humanity is beginning to work together after thousands of years of division. The Mahdi's historical family tree is truly remarkable. His mother Malika was a Byzantine princess and descendant of Saint Simon Peter, the first of the 12 vicegerents of Jesus. Due to political disputes, she was taken captive and brought to Baghdad. By divine providence, she was freed by the 10th Imam and married to his son. The Mahdi thus unites the bloodline of the vicegerents of Prophet Muhammad and the bloodline of the vicegerents of Jesus.
He lays the hand of wisdom on people's minds.
I mean, the only ones who claim a lineage of Jesus is over there in Scotland. What's their names? Dude, the Dan Brown books and stuff in the movies. Rosalind Chapel over there. What's their names? I'll say the Stewarts. Wasn't that Diana's family name, the Stewarts? They supposedly claim that they're bloodline of Jesus through Mary Magdalene. And that was like the whole Dan Brown books and all that.
They come to realize how lost they have been.
Al-Imam al-Mahdi will complete our intellect. Either miraculously, as the hadith states, he will place his hand on the heads of people and God will complete their intellect, or this is symbolic. He brings such a healthy system, this beautiful, healthy system. You don't have lobbies trying to distort the reality. Imam al-Mahdi gives you the reality as it is. And once people see the reality as it is, they'll accept it.
A thirsty person in the desert doesn't need to be reminded of water. He is already...
Yeah, that makes sense, Stefan. You said apparently I'm thinking faster in Afrikaans than I'm talking in English. I have to think a bit more when I'm talking. Yeah, that makes sense. That happens to me all the time. I'm not a great speaker and stuff. My brain does the same thing. I'll be like 10 sentences ahead of what I'm talking about like at a time, and my brain's like better. I'm able to store massive amounts of information, and I just don't spit it out as well.
Looking for water himself, but all he sees is a mirage.
Today, do you find people using candles and oil lamps in their home for light? Do you find that common? Why not? Why does everyone use electricity? It's a no-brainer. When you see the difference between...
That's why I don't do a lot of like scripture videos and stuff. I'm not a great teacher, like speaking wise, and I know that. It's not knowing the information and all that. It's just speaking wise. I'm not a great speaker.
Electricity and an oil lamp. Who would want to use an oil lamp? Because you see it so clearly. One reason why people don't follow the haqq is because it's distorted for them. People don't see it clearly. Al-Imam al-Mahdi will make sure the haqq is clear. Justice is clear.
What will happen when Imam Mahdi returns? People realize that they were locked up in prison before. They had misunderstood freedom. They had mistaken the water for a mirage.
بعضی‌ها اینجور بهشون
Some have been told and taught that when the Mahdi appears, he will kill all non-believers and that the streets will be full of blood and corpses. But that's not true.
Yeah, that's going to be true for sure. Come on. The Bible already warns us about it.
They've thought it's wrong.
We have many narrations that paint a violent picture of the Mahdi's coming, that he will carry the sword, he will mercilessly kill so many people.
No, I mean, it says that in the Quran. It calls us infidels, whoever that basically doesn't convert. It says to chop their heads off.
The status of these narrations is disputed. There are many scholars, upon researching these narrations, they've arrived at the conclusion that these are fabricated narrations.
People's intellect.
That's the thing, though, that gets weird with Islam is they have the Quran, but then they got a ton of hadiths that like the imams and stuff wrote. And it's crazy. They got like a ton of crazy hadiths. Sometimes they put more stock into the hadiths than they do the actual Quran, what the Quran says, which is just crazy to me. If you like actually like investigate into Islam, some of their hadiths are just wild.
Increase so much that there will be no need to force them to do anything.
Once man's intellect and conviction are completed, they will guide him towards the Mahdi. Therefore, people will join the Imam of their own free will.
Or lose their head.
The Imam doesn't need a sword. He doesn't need nuclear bombs. All it takes is for the machinery of oppression and corruption to fail.
Despite all this, not everyone will join the peaceful movement of the Mahdi. In particular, people whose power structures are at risk are trying to stop him. The global networks of corruption are doing everything possible to fight Imam Mahdi.
Only a few will remain who would stand in his way, and only because their wealth and power are at risk. But they will be very few.
ولكن خیلی کمن.
کسانی که با حضرت دشمنن
The enemies of the Imam cannot harm him or his companions. How so? It is said that all the means used to fight the Mahdi will fail and no longer work. And even if some ruler sees his position in danger and wants to fight against the Mahdi, he no longer has any soldiers left to do so. So they have no choice but to politely clear the way.
امام زمان سلام الله علیه
Imam Mahdi will rule in this world just like his great-grandfather, the Holy Prophet Muhammad. The Holy Prophet is the Prophet of peace, the Prophet of mercy.
Yeah, I don't know about holy. It was literally sounds like it was a demon in a cave that basically gave him the Quran. He's pretty much admitted it. He was inside a cave and a demon started talking to him.
He rules with mercy. Oppression and compulsion have no meaning at all. The Quran says there is no compulsion in faith.
و اجباری نیست.
Yes, they did carry the sword. The Prophet ﷺ, when he was in Medina and he came under attack, he did defend himself. But the Prophet's mission was not to kill people. It was to protect people, to guide people. And when
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
Show your daughter how much you love her with this beautiful gift. It says, to my
وقتی
When, with God's permission, his final representative returns and begins the Great Revolution, he will remove all the oppression and exploitation from the world.
برداشته می شود.
دنیا همون شکلی میشه که
The world will be exactly as it should have been from the beginning. That is why God sent prophets from the beginning, and the first was Adam. He sent one prophet after another to grow the minds and intellect of mankind over time, until the last prophet, the Holy Prophet of Islam. That was the plan. And it should have started then, as humanity had now completed this divine education and reached the necessary maturity. But we have seen what happened.
Yeah, the after doesn't really too much matter. Pretty interesting video though. And it looks like my StreamYard is messing up. It's all over the screen. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting video. That's just my personal belief. I always thought they were going to be the same man. Who knows though? Just something I like to look at different stuff and learn something new and just research and history and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, this was a pretty good stream. A couple things opened my eyes in there and stuff. So yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it here because the StreamYard is weird. It's literally all over the screen, and I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to end it. But all right, guys, God bless. I'll catch you later tonight or tomorrow.